TIFU by not noticing my cat snuck into the dryer. Just editing to add a trigger warning, as some commenters have shared similar experiences in which did not end well. Also decided to move the TLDR up here. Lieutenant Spoon is okay. Everything is okay. Kitty took a tumble for a couple of minutes, went to the vet, and all is well. He is happy, eating, drinking, and getting all the snuggles and belly rubs. This is not the first time this has happened in my life. So I'm usually very careful, as I was traumatized years ago by a similar incident that happened with my mom and her cat. I was doing the laundry, typical Saturday morning cleaning for me. I don't ever let the cats into the laundry room because I've had this experience before. I also have OCD, so I, every single time, will check that the cats are on the other side of the door before I start the dryer. Well, today I didn't do that. The one time I don't check. Lieutenant Spoon is a long-haired black cat and is so quiet. He's like a shadow. He can sneak through anything if you're not paying attention. He must have snuck into the laundry room before I chanced to shut the door. I threw the clothes into the dryer, left the door open just long enough to put a dryer sheet in, closed the door and started the dryer. I went back downstairs and was finishing cooking breakfast. It couldn't have been more than 2 minutes later that I heard the most awful screech I have ever heard in my entire life. What it was. When I tell you I flew up those stairs, I am not exaggerating. I opened the dryer and luckily it was not warm, but my sweet Mr. Spoon was all puffy and hissed at me, scratched my arms and even bit me. I feel like such a poss. I took him to the vet and they said he is okay. He is eating and drinking. TIFU by assuming my boyfriend was developmentally delayed instead of being a stereotypical man. I grew up around mostly women plus my father. My dad is a 50-50th chore and life splitter feminist icon without realizing he is one. I also grew up without gender roles being imposed on me. I just did what I wanted and wore what I wanted. I thought my family was typical of most people. Then me and my boyfriend moved in together a few years back. Great times all around, and issues came. He didn't know how to do laundry, cook, keep a house clean and all the other little chores. I taught him how and then he struggled to keep it on a regular schedule. I had to wake him up every morning so he would go to work. I still keep an alarm on for him just in case, which is used once a week. He will come home from work, get changed in the living room, leaving a pile of clothes and his bag in the middle of the room, and play his PS4 for the rest of the day. There's a lot of small stuff he just doesn't get. Clean the sink of tour beard trimmings. If you ISS on and behind the seat, you have to clean it up or it gets rancid and gross. There's lots of other things he does where he cannot function if he lived alone. I genuinely thought he had developmental delays. In my head, people don't struggle like this without something not working right. Me, being nice and supportive, decided to research a bunch of things to help him cope with his day-to-day. I have star charts, mini posters around the house with pictures going through the process of how to do things step by step. I've got a little calendar on the wall for his tasks for the day that he can tick off. I have even changed the way I speak to him to be more direct with a bunch of positive reinforcement. It hasn't helped 100%, but it did help a little bit. It's more manageable. I've never invited friends around my place and have never told anyone about his issues. I didn't embarrass what he couldn't help, as it's our business, not the rest of the world's. A few weeks back I went to visit a very close friend who I haven't seen in a long time. It was just me and I stayed over for a few days. It was really nice not having to look after my boyfriend, as she is someone who I've been close to forever and trust with secrets I opened up about struggling with my boyfriend's issues and how I'm thinking of pushing to get him a diagnosis. Turns out he isn't developmentally disabled, he just went straight from living with a mother who did everything for him to me. It's a somewhat common thing that a lot of men need to grow out of when they reach adulthood. Do you know how mortifying it is to find out your boyfriend is just lazy and you being nice and helpful is actually a waste of time? Me and my friend keep messaging each other about this and I'm close to just packing it up and leaving. I am such a massive idiot. I should have noticed it sooner or told someone sooner. None of this keep it between us malarkey. TLDR, my boyfriend would rather I think he is developmentally delayed rather than look after himself. TIFU by potentially finding out my girl is cheating on me. To preface, this is on a burner account because literally all of my friends look at my main and I am too scared, embarrassed to tell them. I don't know what to do. So to start off, around early mid-January I have been talking to this girl to the point where she has met my family multiple times, and literally this past week we have talked about making it official. The entire time it seems like she has been honest about past lovers, etc. with me, but we both claimed to be exclusive to one another, and I really appreciated how she operated like that, as I 100% do too. So everything overall has been fairly good. I mean, she has a bit of a short fuse, but I grew up around that my whole life, so I have more than enough patience for it, and unlike the people I grew up around, she is really good at getting space and coming back and apologizing just minutes later. I have now convinced myself she is cheating on me, breaking the exclusivity agreement, and I am writing this like 30 minutes before work, but I can barely stand or think, and I feel like I am going to vomit. A couple of days ago now, St. Patrick's Day, we had been under the impression that she would have been leaving for vacation with some friends and I would be working. She had invited me, but I just got back from vacation not even 2 weeks prior, so I couldn't. So she ended up canceling just to save more money and to actually be able to enjoy her Street Patty's Day, and I legit walked into work and they asked if I wanted the day off, so OFC I said yes. No, and she just asks me if I am going to be staying home or whatever and not going out, so I replied something like, "Oh, I am down for whatever, if anyone has plans I can join," or something like that, and she just kinda says, "Haha, okay," and I end up just kinda sitting at home for a couple of hours while she gets ready and goes to the bar. A friend from high school hits me up and asks me if I would go to a bar down the street from the other bar, and I agree, and I text her where I am at, and if she wanted to come she's invited, if not I'll prob beat her bar in a few hours. Everything is normal, she replies like usual, and I have like a drink and 4 shots in the 3-ish hours I am there and let her know I'm headed to her bar. The line was an hour and 20 minutes, and usually she would have me snuck in because we know all the people who work there, but for some reason, assumed just she couldn't or something, she didn't and just would tell me, "Oh, I am sorry, that sucks, sad face, how much longer?" But again, I was fine waiting in the cold. It sucked, but I caught up with my friend and joked with other people in the line. Right before I get in she texts me, "Are you in yet?" And I don't see it cause I am just trying to rush in and find her, and I run to the side of the bar that everyone usually is, and I see her turned away with her friend in a small group of people. I get really happy and start to walk up to her when this guy our age grabs her arm and pulls her to the dance floor just feet away, and just I don't know, the way she accepts it and looked at him was just such a horrible feeling. I immediately sprint up, grab her arm and say, "Hey," and the dude snaps and looks at me and her eyes shoot open and she sprints away, and I try following her but she runs to the restroom. I just use the restroom myself, and as I'm doing that I text her, deleting my messages over and over. I finally end with, "So is that why you wanted to know?" referring to the "Are you in yet?" text. I go back out and she is sitting with her friend, who we will call Jane. I try to ignore it and have a conversation with her, ask her how her day is going, and she's just kinda drunk. Hi, and at a certain point I just politely ask like, "Hey, who was that guy BTW?" And she's like, "I don't know," and then I say, "You don't know the guy who gabbed you and brought you to the dance floor?" And she gets like annoyed and says, "No, like no, I don't know." So I just say okay and try to continue the night on a good note. After a while it starts to eat at me again, and I asked Jane who the guy was and explained what I saw and why it bugged me, and I just didn't want to be her to worry if it was for no reason, and she just kinda told me she had no idea what I was talking about but hoped everything was okay. So that kinda me, and I just chose to try to believe her, even thought she was there when my girl got grabbed. It's probably around 12 at this point, and I'm trying to defuse a fight that is about to happen with her other friends BF and some random dude. It goes okay and it seems to stop, and I calm him, and my girl asks me for water, so I go to the bar and get her some and she chugs it, so I get her more. As I am coming back I see someone whisper in her ear and walk off. Same color hoodie as the previous dude, as that is about the only thing I took in because I was so focused on her face earlier. So I walk up confused and she just has this oblivious and expressionless look on her face looking back at me, and I give her the water and she smiles and says thank you. After a couple men of sitting next her, she pulls her phone out and opens Snapchat. I am not a nosy person, and she has assumed that I've looked at her phone in the past while she was reading messages and got angry at me for it, but I thought she wanted to take a picture, so I kind of lean back and behind her and look at the screen camera, and she instead swipes to the left and I see a snap from someone named Jack. Fake name. I do a lil oop and look away, but my mind immediately thinks of the gray sweater kid, so I turn back out of curiosity, but she had quickly read and closed it, then turned off her phone. She leaves about 10 minutes later to take her friend Jane home and texts me when she gets there, and I, somehow still at this point, check her location to make sure she's safe and not driving anymore, and she is fine and there, so I text her good night, etc., and shes very normal and loving about it. At the end of the night I ask her other best friend, we will call her Jill, I have a J thing going on about it, and just say, Look, I've been cheated on this exact way in the past and I am normally completely fine. I would just like to know more about the situation and she just isn't telling me anything. And she hits me with basically the same thing Jane did but with a, I am so sorry though, I would be worried too if I were in the exact same situation, so I get it, but I didn't see anything. And I just kinda sadly nod and let her know I am going home and hug all my friends goodbye. The following day, yesterday, I just tried to ignore it even though I had terrible dreams and could really get it out of my head. I was nice and positive to her and she was back, but it kinda seemed off and I asked when she'd come over and she said, soon, but like implying not today soon. I again just continued and tried to keep it out of my head but I couldn't, and the last conversation I had at the end of the day before I got out of work was, hey, I'll talk to you later, and she said, okay, bye. So by the time I get out I had to talk to her and ask her about it for reassurance so I could just address it and move on because she seemed like she was super trustworthy but just the situation seemed off. I get out of work and text her, hey, to no response. I clean off my car and let it heat up and still no response. Check her location and she's at this random house that is far away from all of her friends' houses and her place, so I am just confused. It hits me and am like, oh no, I just need to get home. But on the way home I look at the street again and I am like, okay, I hate myself but I need to stop by the house and just see like if any of our friends' cars are there cause I doubt I'll get anything else out of it. I pull up and see her car covered in snow, meaning she's been there for a min, and there's someone else's car who I don't recognize parked behind her and the room light is on but every other light is off. I park down the street a little and just try to breathe for a min before I go home, and as I turn around and drive past again the light is turned off and I get back onto the main road and try to call her. No response. I legitimately have never gotten just denied a call like she let it ring the worst. She said no and texted me, hey, I am busy, or something cause she's at her friend's. So I text her, is everything okay? And she doesn't respond. At this point I had literally worked myself up to the point where I needed to talk to her, and this is happening, so I just drive home and sit in my basement and try to just calm myself down and think about every possible way this couldn't be bad and how crazy I probably am, and I am like, hey, maybe she was just tired and I didn't see a third car or something and I already feel bad for even driving out there, so I should just drop it. So I check her location and she drove down the street for food and then after a while back to the same house, and then my mind was like, okay, so she might have me muted. I know she's awake. Why did she turn the lights off? If she was awake, etc. And I just go to sleep and I can't, and I am struggling so bad, so at 2 a.m. I sent her basically everything I wanted to talk about and talked about her location, etc. and was just like, hey look, regardless of what answer you give me I have complete trust, I just need answers, honesty, and reassurance. It has been 12 hours since and she hasn't texted me and I feel like I upped up and ruined everything, but it also makes me think I just caught her and it just sucks so bad because I wanted to help her cause she was in a hitty spot, and just IDK I feel like I genuinely want to die. I now have to leave for work, but like what should I do? Am I crazy? I don't know how I am gonna get through today. I can barely stand, but it's too late to call in. TLDR, saw her with another guy. Didn't like how she looked at him, and when she saw me she ran off. Next day she's at someone random's house and won't answer texts or calls, which is absolutely not normal. Isn't a long text and she's ghosting me now.